Okay, this is my second video on GDevelop 5. I'm going to go through from start to finish in 15-20 minutes on how you can take your sketches. If you're not a programmer, you can take your sketches, scan them in, and actually program them into a working video game or an animated novel or whatever you want to do. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is GDevelop 5. It's a HTML5 based game platform. My last video showed how you can actually chop up and scan in images and how I colored them in using a tablet. I'm going to skip all that stuff, assuming you can do that stuff on your own. But I will just show you here that I have a folder full of assets ready to go. These are hand-drawn pieces that have various poses that I intend to use, at least to start out to make a video game. There's various expressions, me thinking, sitting down, and then these last four are actually 4 cells of a walk cycle. Okay, so this is the GDevelop 5 load screen. It's a free program, and let's just jump into it. So I'm gonna hit my start page here and go to game settings. And properties are basically pretty small. I'm going to work with a widescreen format, so it's more modern specs. So I'm going to set this at 1280 by 800. It's more of a widescreen. All this other stuff I'm not going to fool with. Feel free to experiment on your own. I'm just going to keep this bare bones. And before you do anything, you need scenes. Here on the scenes tab, you're going to add a new scene. For this experiment, we're going to go ahead and create 2 scenes we're going to create 2 scenes right off the bat because we know we want to switch between 2 rooms. Whatever you want to do, you can add new stuff, do whatever you want, but this is going to be the basic core pieces that you can make pretty much anything. So we're going to add a new scene. You have to click these little buttons up here to rename your scene. I'm just going to create 2 scenes. I'm just going to call them scene 1. I'm going to create a new scene and I'm going to rename that for 2. Okay, this is the basic interface. If you actually go ahead and double click either of your scenes, it's going to bring you to a stage. This represents scene 1, and this is the events or the coding that goes behind this scene. Now this blue box you can see runs off the screen, and you can use Control minus to zoom out on your stage, or Control plus to zoom in. Close that. So this is our working space. Scene 1 and scene 2 will actually have the exact same dimensions. So we can actually see what our full screen is going to look like by hitting play. We're going to be hitting this a lot. That's our stage. Okay, so the first thing we need is to import our assets, images, whatever you want to call them. I have the pieces that I showed you in the other folder. They're just scanned in from line drawing, but in the game world, workable images are called sprites. So under the objects tab on the right hand side, we're going to add a new object, and there is sprite. You get more advanced, you're going to do you can do tile to do repeating floors or dirt, whatever. This is going to be the basic. I'm a drawer, an artist, so I just wanted to bring my sketches to life, right? So I know what I wanted to draw on, so I drew my own rooms. Okay, so I'm going to have my little characters cut out and walk along the rooms that I drew, not repeating. So I'm going to pull in my room into an object called a sprite. Now I'm just going to call this room, I'll call it schoolroom. Schoolroom 1. Okay. Now it's not really intuitive, but you have to add an image to this. And in GDevelop 5, it considers all images animations, whether it has multiple frames or not. So we're going to create a animation, which is just one image. Okay, so we're going to add our image, and I created that image folder here, and I'm going to load my school hallway. Okay, and we're done. Cut. It's going to go like this and redo the stage width. Okay, I'm back. I rescaled my stage to kind of fit closer to my drawing. So I'm going to bring him in. Still super big, but it should fit closer to our stage. Once you do this a little bit, you'll get the hang of what your drawing should be to match, but I'm just kind of doing this as an example. Okay, so that's our school, but we don't have anything to put on it. So let's go ahead and import our first sprite to go in our scene. Again, I'm going to be importing a plant drawing that I had. Again, add an animation. Oh, why it says that? And it's plant. And then I'm going to hit apply. Stick my plant. Whoa, it's giant plant. Yikes. Okay, so giant plant. We are going to program this to use as an object. If our dude collides with this plant, we're going to go upstairs. All right, so we're going to do collision detection, animation, etc., etc. Okay, so now we're going to add a character to our scene that we can control and have interact with all these pieces. So I'm going to add a new object. We're going to add a sprite. This is just like the plant, except we want one standing still, and then one animated walking, and then doing other things. So I'm going to show you how to do multiple states in the same object. So I'm going to vainly name him JS person. And then I'm going to add an animation, but the first state is obviously going to be him just standing there looking stupid. So let me say, checking out my cell phone, arrogant folded arms, hands in pocket. That's more like me. You create a second animation to be a state where he's walking. So I'm gonna go ahead and add images, and in GDevelop 5, you can shift click a series. So I have ones walk 1 through 4. I'm gonna shift click all of those and import them. Okay. Now it'll play once and stop. That's where I'm gonna click the loop button. And if you do it too quick, he looks like he's on crack. The speed of light, I guess, is 0.2. You can preview it, kind of walking along. Okay. Now the key point that we're going to come back to is these names. Right now it says animation 0, and this is animation 1. For some reason, you have to know that ahead of time so you can reference it when we get to the programming part. Okay, so we're going to apply. And what we want to do next is just stick him in there. And let's go ahead and preview our scene by hitting this round play button in the upper left. Sweet. Xbox ready. Doesn't do anything. Okay. Now it's time to get to the programming part. And it's still really not programming. It's more like Lego programming, where all the pieces you kind of drag and drop, but still you have to think about what you're doing to get it to do the right stuff. And it can get complicated, but I'll try and explain it as best as I can. So if you look up here, 1 refers to our scene number. This is scene number 1. Next to it is the scene name, and then in brackets it says events. That's all the coding that goes behind the actually animation, listening to keys, listening to the mouse, joystick, whatever you want to do. So these are events. Right now we don't have any events, and this thing politely says you don't have events. We know that. We just made this project. So up in the upper section over here, we're going to add an empty event. Okay, and you'll see two columns, one for condition and one for action. A condition is something it's listening for. It can listen for a mouse, it could listen to a key press, it could listen to a lot of stuff. But this is just the basics, and I want to get through this without too many mistakes and people logging off. So our condition is going to be using, it's going to listen to the standard gaming keys. These are ASDF, W, S, whatever. I'm not a gamer. So let's add a condition here. And up here, it's not intuitive. You want to grab these things, but don't. We're going to be listening to a key press. And if you click this, it's going to have tons of stuff that go for every event listening. So we're just going to actually search for key. Okay, so these are our key options, and we're looking for simply key pressed. Okay, now key down here has all the keys. We're going to stick with standard gaming keys, where D means something that moves to the right. So if you type D, here's a kind of a gotcha. If you click D, you're not done. You actually have to select it from here. Okay, and then I'm going to click OK. Now, when D key is pressed, we want to make the guy move to the right, obviously. So we do add action. Now we can grab the dude, right? And here it becomes our behaviors. You can go through and look at all these, but I'm just going to cut to the basics of what we're looking for. We are going to change its position. Now from this set, we're going to change things in the X position. Okay, and this is the modifiers for moving that X position. It gets a little more programming speak, but basically we are going to add a value to whatever its current X position is. And this does it every frame cycle. Right now, I think we're set for 20 frames a second. So we're gonna add two pixels, 20 frames a second, and you'll see it's a decent amount. You can play with it. You know, if you even go to 3 or 4, it looks like he's like, has some kind of problem. So do okay. And it says if the D key is pressed, we're going to make this person's X position move. We're going to add 2 to it. So you're going to love this button. You're going to live by this thing. So there's our guy. And by pressing the D key, woo, actually, well, it kind of looks sad. So we'll change that later. Actually, we can change it in the scene. I'm going from the events tab back to the scene tab. He's only sad because he's so giant. He's not supposed to be as tall as the windows. Okay, so there's our guy. Put him down here, and obviously he slides weirdly because he's not. Nobody walks like that. So if you go back to the events tab, we have to do something else. Not only do we have to change its position over time, we have to change that animation. If you remember back there, the keys were, back over here real quick. Whoa, what happened there? Animation 0 and animation 1 was the walking guy. Okay, so going back to events, I'm gonna do another action on top of moving it. I'm gonna grab the person again, and we scroll down here, position, and under animations and images, we're gonna change the animation. Okay, and back to our settings, we're gonna choose the operator, except we're gonna set it to some value. Remember, the standing still guy was 0 and the walking one was 1. Okay, now if we play and we press the D key, he should dutifully change its animation. If you let go, we didn't tell it to do anything, so it'll keep doing that forever. Might as well jam him against the wall by the plant. There, that fits, like he's on ice. Okay, so we have to add another event listener. Now you just can't tack it into here because it's only listening if the D key is pressed. When we let go, it doesn't know to change. So don't do anything in here. You want to add another event. And its condition, again, is keyboard. And if a key is released, we need it to do something. So we're going to add the D key. Again, select it from here. When the D key is released, we need to, for this person, change its animation back to 0. So I'm gonna set it to 0. Luckily, the program knows if you let go, stop moving. So you don't have to set the moving to nothing. It just does it. So play again. Ooh. There. Okay. Now you can follow along. I'm just going to do the A key, which is move to the left real quick by doing the same stuff for these two. I'm going to add a condition. Keyboard, if key is pressed. This time it's the A key. Okay, that's fine. We are going to add the action for this guy back to the X position, except this time we are going to subtract a value for each frame cycle, and I think it was 2. Forgot. And then we should have both of those going, and then another event if the key is released, and that's A. We need to, I went out of order, but we're gonna set his animation back to 0. I skipped that part. Zero. So if A key is pressed, I also have to set its animation to 1 because remember it was walking. And you'll see a problem here. You could probably already guess because there's only one animation. I'm not making multiple. We'll walk right, walk left. So for the birds. Luckily, lets us do something here. Okay, you'll see the problem here in a second. Dude, he's walking. Cutting back, he's animating. He's doing the moonwalk. Terrible. So what we have to do is set mirroring on. So when the key is pressed, we have to add another action to tell it to flip the animation. It's pretty cool. So this guy, scroll down to flip the object horizontally. So it's flipped. Little icon shows a piece of paper. It's kind of handy. And we're going to set active flipping on yes. Now, again, logic says if you don't flip it back when you walk to the right, it's going to moonwalk that way too. So we need to add an action to him. And we're going to find that flippy thing again. And we're going to turn the active flipping to no, just to make sure it does it. And we should be good to go. And that's all there is to it. Okay, now we're gonna set collision on to go to a new scene. We haven't set much up in the scene yet, or even scene 2. So let's go to our start page and double click scene 2. It's blank, control minus to shrink again. But we're going to add an object here. And the fact that there's no objects here, I'll bring that up in a second, because between different scenes, we haven't established a global object to exist anywhere, and that'll be our person. School all night. Spooky. So I'm going to add an animation. That's really not an animation. And here's my night scene. Oops, I did too, but it doesn't matter. It's still animation 0 for a single frame. And I'm going to drag him in. And again, he's too giant. Okay, so we have our scene. He walks around, but he doesn't do anything. So we're going to have him. We're going to fake it so when he hits this plant, it's going to switch scenes upstairs to the night scene that we created, scene 2. We're going to set a condition if he collides with the plant. Collision with the plant, whatever that means. Do OK. And the action is going to be the scene switch from 1 to 2 to our spooky hallway. So it really doesn't have anything to do with any of this stuff. We're not going to move. This is the actual results of him hitting the plant. We're going to search for scene. We're going to change the scene. Okay? And we're going to switch it to 2. Whatever that means. Okay, let's try it. And our walking works both directions, and okay, don't move the plant. And boom, it's switched to the new scene. Now where's our guy? Our guy's missing. So if we go back and we look at scene 2, we will see we have nothing. Scene 2. And we look at scene 2's events. There's no events. Okay? And even worse, if we drag, our guy's gone, right? So we have to add the guy, add all the events to this scene to listen to him and make him walk, all kinds of nonsense. You don't have to. The goal is to make things reusable. So the first thing we have to do is make him a global object. Okay, so again, how I got there, I look for the person and I set him as a global object. Now he is tilty. That shows that he can be used in any scene. If you go to scene 2, he's still available to us. Now, surprisingly, if you bring him along, well, he's giant again. Jeez. Okay, I don't know if that's the right aspect ratio or not, but he's giant. So if you go to scene 2 events, there's no events anymore. So we have to associate all those events we made in scene 1. We have to make them global events as well to follow along with our player. So scene 1 events has all our goodies. That's everything we need. Unfortunately, they don't translate, or you can't copy and paste easily. We need to make these global events. Go back to the project manager, click that, and go to external events. I accidentally already clicked that button, so I created one, but I'm going to go ahead and rename it to walking. Is it walking? Well, he walks and he bumps into plants and stuff like that, so let's make it dude behavior. Okay. So if I double click on him, now we have this dude behavior, and but it also doesn't have any events, so you can add all that stuff over again, or we can just rip it off from number 1. Number 1 again has all our events, so we're just going to copy all the stuff over to dude behavior and then delete these. So here's a tricky thing. If you click this, you can't copy it. You have to actually click on the region. So it has this light blue, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a light blue box around the whole strip that you created. So go back to dude behavior, and we're going to create a new empty event set. Now that's just kind of waiting for us. So one events, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it. Dude behavior, click this once, paste it. And this is going to keep iterating, keeping a blank spot below for you to copy and paste. I'm going to grab the next one, copy it, dude bad behavior, next one, dude awful behavior, 3, loathsome behavior, and you still have to click it. And then the last one is colliding with a plant. I don't know if we're gonna keep that or not, because there's not gonna be plants in every scene. So let's leave that one off. Okay, so now we have these behavior sets. Now you would think you could just attach it to the guy, but you can't. You have to have it set within the scene. Now just to prove that we're doing everything right, I'm gonna go ahead and delete all these things that I created. Whoa, again, look out for that box. Delete, click down, delete. If you click up here, you're only doing the key press, so can't tell you how many times that stung me. Okay, now there's actually no behaviors set for stage 1 anymore. So if you go here and you play it, he doesn't do squat. Okay, so what we have to do is go into the behavior set of 1 and tell it use these reusable behaviors, because the dude is going to be on that page. So this is the link button. So we're actually going to use that and link our global behaviors to this page. And this comes in handy if you have a whole bunch of scenes and you only want to select certain behavior sets so it doesn't bog down your game. So the name of our external events is dude behavior. Okay. And also on our events 2, there's nothing here, but we can link it to also listen to the dude behavior. Okay. And if we go now to scene 2, our guy's already there. So it should work. Oh, it's dark. Start with 1. So you have to watch the long, painful walking. So if he hits the plant, says he's going upstairs. Oh, I need to have the plant. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Go dude behavior. Condition. This person collides with the plant. Whatever that means. It's condition. So I guess you have to make multiple plants for each scene. We are going to change the scene to 2. Wah, wah. Okay, scene 1, I'm tired of this guy walking. I'm just gonna move him over here. And play. And if he walks, hits the plant, and he's still allowed to walk. Okay, so I think I'm gonna cut it off there. You see the basics of being able to interact with objects. Well, one more thing. Let's go ahead and stick the plant in scene 2 also. I'm not gonna make him. No, I'll do the rest later. But you get the idea for how far I've taken this. So you can interact with objects, you can switch scenes, and then next time I'm going to get more into storing state variables, being able to keep track of score, and maybe start to discuss dialogue, and so we can really flesh this out to a full adventure game. Okay, thanks.